All right, you know you're gonna have to talk
family
about,
trade secret.
you're gonna
for
have to stop talking
generations,
about
of
that.
course. Well, being a golden, it's in our nature. But have the golden rule. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. We hear it all the time. It's in the Bible. It's something that they at work. It's an expectation. The parents telling their kids, teachers, schools everywhere. So treat other people the way you want to be treated. So it's implied, in my opinion, that means you got to be nice to other people, right? But if you think about it, really think about the golden rule. Treat other people how you want to be treated. So it really comes down to treat yourself how you want the world to see you, which is how you want them to treat you.
Nice.
Because I think it all starts with yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not kind to yourself, I think that will seep into this golden rule and taint it to the point to where, well, you're not treating yourself with respect, so you're not going to be able to be respectful to other people to an extent. Or you don't love yourself, so how can you fully love other people? So we will do things for others that we want to give ourselves that time, like being kind to other people, doing so many things, like oftentimes maybe bending over backwards to do something for someone else. But if you're going to treat other people the way you want to be treated, it should be in alignment with how you're treating yourself. And it was kind of not until maybe a year or two ago that I really kind of looked at it and thought to myself, okay, well, how am I treating myself? How do I want to be treated? And I was like, what about you? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I mean, thank you for sharing that. I think that was a really good I think way of looking at that a lot of people don't necessarily give a thought to. But what I think about usually when I think of the golden, and I'll always wonder why it's called the golden rule, golden. But anyways, I feel like there's probably a few different rules that I feel like qualify as like a golden rule in that category. So to me, this one is like one of them. But anyways, I think that a lot of the issues that we struggle with as a world, honestly, comes from the fact that we fail a lot of time to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. And actually, let me rephrase that. We've lost the ability, I think, to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. And I don't even mean in terms of me joy in that person's shoes, but just connecting the dots in terms of that person is another human being just like me, who makes mistakes just like me, who has a worldview just like me, who has things they believe in just like me, who has things they refuse to believe in just like me, who have a family just like me. And I think those little points in which because to me I feel like the world has become so good at pointing how different people are, how different views, how polarized people are, and everything, all the way to the little details. And to me, when I think of treating other the way you treat yourself, I think it comes from a fundamental understanding that at some point we're all the same and we all deserve the same treatment. And I think, because once you establish that, you almost don't even need to like that rule to be a part of it. Because once you develop a worldview in which everyone is on the same standing as far as like who they are, what they're worthy of, it. You know what I mean? Like, so like it becomes, you don't even have to stress you gotta treat this person as if it was yourself, because it becomes logical. It's like, duh. I mean, that person, me, the person across the street, like we all kind of the same. You know what I mean? Not to be corny or anything, but like we really are all the same. And to me, that's what it makes me think when I think of treating other people as yourself. Because I don't remember if it's probably like an ancient like Chinese proverb in which it talks about, I don't remember the exact phrasing of it, but basically the understanding that if you were to put yourself in the shoes of your enemy long enough, you might end up finding a friend instead.
I've heard something like that before.
And to me that's just one of those fascinating things, because when you really think about it, if we put enough effort in really trying to see other people just like we see ourselves, there's a lot of things that this world, the way things operate overall like that, we just have to stop. And on the flip side, the only way some of the things that are still being done and happening today are happening, the only way is you have to see other people less than you. Like, you have to see other people as less than human, even sometimes, I feel like, in order to maintain some of the ways in which society works. Because, like, when you really think about it, there is no way, like, I mean, like, if you really think about it, again, like, there's no way some of the things, like, even the way we interact daily, like, if you really saw a homeless person as just another human being, just like me, just like my brother, just like my sister, who deserves love, who deserves care, who has made mistakes just like me, and all that, and there is no way you will be able to walk by homeless without having at least a conversation. No, I'm not even talking about giving them anything, without having a conversation, finding out even how they're doing, like what they're going through that day. And the only way for us to be able to do that is to see them not as us, is to see them either as someone less than us, or just to not even compute that. So anyways, yeah. I'm very passionate about this, because
yes,
you can tell. Yes, you can tell, because it just bugs me. And again, because I've had the blessing and the curse to see so much of just see how evil human beings can be, and it's just impossible, I think, to do some of those things without that. But anyways, just so I don't talk the whole time, I have a question. What do you think happens when you, or just like people in general, what do you think happens the more we fail to treat other people as ourselves? Like, what do you think happened to ourselves, like to relationships, to just...
Well, I think part of it, you see the world as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is what happens. Mm-hmm. A lot of the things that you're passionate about, and it's interesting because I agree with aspects of what you said, but I also agree with the worldview. But I think that what we see with people who are, I mean, I work in social services, so I'm working with families every day that are maybe as otherwise looked over, overlooked, not cared for, people who that you might complain about, or the people homeless. You know, we work with these people that are part of our society, our neighbors, our friends, our families, to treat them, to take care of them, to help them help themselves. So I see every day the opportunity of what we have to do good in the lives of others when we are treating people the way we want to be treated, by being respectful to them, by working hard with them, by communicating, by creating that dialogue. Because when you have a discourse without an opportunity for dialogue, you remain in a discourse. When you have individuals who are suffering and are hurting, you may try to approach them, but people in pain, or people in fear, because I think there's a lot of fear that's associated with pain and anguish that we will see in society, then it could become potentially dangerous for you to try and just, well, let me go help them, and then all of a sudden they're attacking you or stealing from you because they don't trust your motive, or they can't see it because of where they're at. So it's definitely you have to be, careful and mindful. You can't be naive about the pain and suffering of other people or what someone's going through. So I think as best we try, we can put ourselves in the other shoes of the other person to help ourselves realize that there is a different way of looking at this. There is a way that's different that someone's going through. There is a different way of what led them to where they are now, that they may think of has nothing to do with us in our life. So why should we bother associating or even worrying about what it is that they're dealing with? But it's because we are a community, we are a group of people, we are part of this huge society, and with our technological advancements, we have made it the world is our neighborhood. I mean, we still have, on a technicality basis, parts of humanity that are completely indigenous, often remote parts of the world. But in the same sense, what we do still impacts them. Everything we do impacts the people around us to an extent. By knowing like 100 people, you essentially are like 3 persons away from, I think it's like a billion people, something like that. The math might be off, but it's like 100 million or something, or a billion. And so it's this idea that when you take care of yourself, you put yourself in the best position to do the most good. And by being in the best position to do the most good, you have the opportunity to live up to that golden rule. And the reason, in my opinion, why we have this golden rule and why it's almost like a theme or a condition for a functioning and successful society, is that by doing well unto others, we create the opportunity for them to do well unto us, which fosters and promotes growth, peace, prosperity in a beautiful world that we can all live in. Now, when we see in the news, in the media, in our personal lives and experiences with family, friends, demographics, things that happen, we see evil. And every time we see an evil act, we see something that's dark and hateful, vengeful, intentional evil, right? Because there are people that decide this is how I want to be. Because they have abandoned or do not believe in or are against the idea that you should see people as people, that you should treat other people the way you would want to treat. Because I don't think for a moment anyone who bullies another person or hurls slurs or demeaning comments or derogatory things or talks evil about somebody would want other people to do that to them. I don't. They may be like, oh, let's go, like I'll out evil you. It's like no, at a certain point you're all just, you know, who's the fool, right? You argue with the fool long enough, you realize you're the fool, you know. So but it's this idea that we have to focus on how can we go towards this better society. I was at the Chaffee Zoo actually, I think 2 weeks ago, in September last month, and we had the it was an event. It was the State of the County event, and I got to go for my job, and it was really cool because we had people from leadership from all over the community in the state that was there, and they were talking about, you know, just our county and our state's response to like the creek fires with COVID and things that we did, and we got to hear from leadership. So, you know, there were awards and titles and praise to things, but every representative there talked about their team, talked about all the people behind them, all the people that weren't able to be there, because otherwise you'd have tens of thousands of people all crammed into this small little thing, and you'd be there for 3 days to thank every single individual person, right? But what it gave me was this feeling of, sometimes in my mind I wonder, what's the point of doing the right thing? And I go to things like this, and that doubt immediately leaves, because you see why, when enough people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different jobs, you had people from schools, you had people from the medical field, you had people from the military, people from law enforcement, people from service jobs, county jobs, utility jobs, firefighters. When enough people do the right thing, then we can see just how impactful it was. Like with the what was the fire? I think it was with the creek fire. There was like I may be wrong, but I want to say there was no fatalities. And they were using like a Chinook and a Black Hawk helicopter, and they were like, the capacity was like, they said it was like 33 people and like got like 100 something people on it. And the people flying this thing, where I would be like, okay, let's take the most at-risk, vulnerable, injured people, get them on first, get them taken care of first. And it was just the coordination of other people knowing that, like, if that was my son or daughter or brother or father, like, I would want to do everything I could for them. They treated people the way they want to be treated. They followed this example rule, this lifestyle for humanity, and it caused a disaster to not be as disastrous. And I think that it's so easy, because negativity is something we're drawn to identify, to avoid. But it's also something that a lot of people latch onto, because I think they get tricked into thinking that that's all there is, or that's what the majority of the world is, and I don't think it is, because if it really were that bad, I mean, I would not have been able to live 30 years without people robbing me and stealing my home and all these horrible things I see. It's like, it'd be insane just how lucky am I apparently that none of this has ever happened to me. But it's like, things have happened to people I know like that, but it's this idea that yes, there is evil, and yes, it is bad, and we can't dismiss it. It's not to dismiss like, oh, well, it's not me, so it shouldn't matter. It's like, no, it does matter. And we need to look at it because people are passionate about it. People are amazing. People are resilient. People are compassionate. People have this ability to be phenomenally good or chaotically evil. And it's just a matter of deciding, like, okay, what kind of person will you actually decide to be? You have to realize that you literally have, like, that old phrase saying, there's the tools inside you. One's good and one's evil. Which is going to win? The one you feed more. And we have to consciously and with effort strive each day to focus on feeding that good wolf, to treat other people the way we want to be treated, to be the moral character, to be the hero, to be the right person that's going to lift the world up, lift those around us up, because people are watching us. People watch you and how you interact. One of my coworkers had retired, and he talked about an individual I used to work with who I was very patient with when I was a worker. And I was like, okay, like, I remember the time working with this individual, it was like, okay, because he'd come in all the time. He always had a lot of questions, and it was like, okay. But this guy who's been working for a really long time is like, I remembered how professional you were with him, and that stuck with me. And I was like, oh, like, well, cool. Like, I'm good. I mean, I was doing my job, and someone's got to do it. And I didn't always feel like, oh yeah, like, I feel great, I'm happy, you're in here for the 100th time, but it was, I'm going to treat him with respect because that's what we're supposed to do. If I came in and I had this many questions and I was constantly in need and constantly was unsure about what's going on, I would want somebody with the patience and the ability to assist me. And him seeing that was an impact, because when we see people do good, I think it encourages us to justify why we ourselves need to do good in this world and why it's worth it. And I realized I just talked for a really long time. But I had a lot of things to say because I'm very passionate about it too. And so that being said, then how can we shift the focus on the value of this, I guess, moral compass for driving our personal lives, maybe setting the example for people around us? What are some ways that we can focus on that positivity?
So I think, first of all, thank you for everything you shared. I think that was very, very insightful, and especially the actual, like, personal stories too, I think, to illustrate a lot of that. But I think one of the easy ways to make this, first of all, something that is more, not necessarily more achievable, but more attainable, because it's very easy when you hear this thing of, like, the golden rule, like, it feels so epic and so wild and everything. But I think it's one of the things that helps is, how do I bring it down to something that I can do, like, in my daily life type thing, and because it's very easy to think, my enemy, or like the homeless person, all those things, which are good, but like, how do you treat others with yourself just when you hang out with your family, just when you hang out with your wife, when you just chilling with friends, while you're in the bus, there's things that we do every when you're at work. And so I think one of the first components that I go to is people's stories. Because usually there's a quote that I read or heard that said that the shortest distance between two people is a story. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about storytelling too, because I really believe that stories have the power to do what not too many things can, which is like create bridges, like especially where there's walls or gaps. I think stories really have to help bring people together. And so one of the things is listening to people's stories. And there's very few instances that I can think of, if any at all, in which I listen to someone's stories, genuinely pay attention, and despise them after that. I was just like mad at them or anything. And in some cases, these were like people who had been in gangs, people who had done things. But there's just something that happens when you understand someone's perspective and how they were affected by the things that happened to them, the things that they had to deal with. And it almost puts you into this place of, I wonder what I would have done if it was me in that apartment. Like my mom was just like always high, and all I saw was just like boyfriend after boyfriend coming in and bringing drugs and everything. And then I was initiated. I was like, would I have ended up any different if those were all the choices I have, Right. But I think it takes people's stories to understand that, because otherwise we're just faces, shapes, like colors, like just moving around, and there's no connection there. It's just someone else. But I think when a story is exchanged, there's just that you feel that connection, and I guess the little step that leads to that is having conversations. There is absolutely no way, to get to someone's stories without a conversation. And I think we live in a day and age in which, because you were talking earlier about just like how connected we are and everything, and because of that, I feel like a lot of people are starting to lose the art or the skill of actual conversations, because a lot of what happened in on social media when people are talking about an issue or everything, that people, especially younger generations, like probably a couple of generations after us, I feel like, they think of conversation as just throwing your opinions into the pot, which those are not conversation. That's just throwing your opinion into the pot, because no one is listening. It's how can I say as much until you have nothing to say? How can I throw in as much until I am right and you're wrong? Because and why I don't qualify those as conversations is because even in the African culture, we have some proverbs about that. After a conversation has happened, people should be closer, not further than where they started. And if after an exchange, people are further away, more polarized, more angry at one another, it's because it was a debate, not a conversation. Or it's because they were just flat out, just like hauling at each other, trying to hurt each other or something, And so we're losing that art of genuinely like, hey, like asking a question and listening for the answer and actually processing it and like actually connecting to people. We're losing it fast. And the new standard is this shallow interaction in which you just grab as many facts as you can, throw it in there, and then I made my point. What do you got? And so conversations and stories, I feel like, are a huge stride in the direction of treating other people as yourself. Because when you have the capacity to have genuine conversation, to listen to people's stories and share yours with them, in a loving way, I really feel like it really bridges those gaps, and really helps you. And not only put yourself in the other person's shoes, but it helps the other person to also put themselves in your shoes, because that exchange, it goes both ways, like this is not just about me becoming amazing at like treating everybody like myself. No, it's also about creating a world in which it's easier for the next person to treat me like them, or to go and treat someone else like themselves, and exactly like you said, like good spreads, it really does. And so by practicing those two things, like we can so easily, start fostering that culture and blowing it up. And the other thing too, I would say, is not underestimating the power of a small, kind gesture. I think we had an episode about this at some point, but
random acts of kindness.
Yeah, random acts of kindness. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just never under. I know. It's like, when was it? When we're young. Yeah. But it's so easy. And I think you talked about that too. Like when you look at the world and just how sad and depressing and torn up and divided and evil it looks, it's so easy to go, what is this gonna do? What is this little drop in this ocean of madness gonna do? Like, it's not gonna create any wave, it's not gonna do anything, it's gonna be meaningless. But like, there's this old video at some point, it was very viral, well, on WhatsApp at least, I don't know if it was viral everywhere, but it was this video that basically, I think it starts with this little kid just like who was running on the street, and like there was another little kid that was like riding a little bike, and then the little girl falls over, and then he sees her and he goes real quick and kind of like helps her up, and kind of like helps her, dust her feet and everything, and then he just keeps walking. And as that happened, there was a woman who was walking across the street, and she was just walking and saw the act, and just like, oh, that was nice, And so then the video tracks her as she's about to get into a bus. And I think there's an older lady that was walking too. And so she was about to go in, and she pauses, helps the old lady, and then goes in. And there was another guy walking by who saw that and was like, oh, that's interesting. And then he follows that guy into an elevator when it was the doors were about to close. Someone was like, hey, hold it. He holds the door. And then it was just like this domino effect of like someone seeing good, and then just like, oh, and then accidentally doing good in their own life, and then someone seeing it. And it's crazy because that has happened to me before. I mean, not to that extent, but it's like you see someone doing something good and you don't even think much of it. Just like, oh, that's nice. Yeah. But next time you have the opportunity to do something good, there's almost this thing that kicks in of like, hey,
like,
I want to do it too. Yeah,
let's go.
Like, I want to be a part of this. Yeah. And like that video, I remember it was super viral. Like people were sharing it all like crazy. And that is so real. Like it really does happen, because it's like all it takes is for you to do that little time, and you never know who is watching. And because sometimes, we think, what is this going to do for this person? But sometimes it's not even about that person. Mm-hmm. Like you just doing that, someone else could be across the street, I don't know, someone else seeing it, and it changes the day of hundreds of people down the line. But you just have to trust that somehow that's gonna, like, because that's not for you to worry about. Yeah, who is gonna see, who's gonna do what? But you just have to trust that process, that good, when genuine good is done, it has a way to spread. It just has a way to spread, and we gotta believe it. We have to believe it if we want this world to continue to get better. And not just wishful thinking, but it's because it's true. It really is true. Like good really does spread. So those three, I would say, are the at least I can think of, three very good ways to make this, like the golden rule, really something that's practicable, I think, and applicable in our daily lives.
Definitely, because I like what you said, because people are watching. You said you don't know who's watching, and I think there's another part of that too. Is even when there is no one watching, you still do the right thing for the right reason. Yeah, that's something I've heard my dad always say is, you're doing the right thing for the right reason, even when nobody's watching. And it's that idea, because in the same way we had a video, and I've seen it before too. Yeah, and it's a very wholesome video, and I like it too. Yeah. It makes you feel good. Yeah. In the same way that you see one kindness thing does another, and it has that ripple effect. You can see one negative thing does another negative thing, negative. So it's because it's we talked a little bit about a couple episodes ago. We talked about what are you going to decide to do about it? Like what is your reaction to it? Because like people will say like, well, there's no like you have no control, there's no free will, there's all this stuff. It's like, well, you don't have control over what's going to happen to you, but you have complete control on how you're going to respond to a situation. So it is your freedom of will to decide, how am I going to respond to what happens to me? Yes, depending on where you were born and who your parents were, or what kind of financial disadvantages or disadvantages, or things that are certain, the template of your being is gonna be what it is, and that some people might have or not have a better predisposition towards success, or whatever your thought of success is, your idea of success is. But it's a matter of when things go wrong, how are you going to deal with them? When people are rude or mean or cruel to you, what are you going to do? When you have the opportunity to help someone and be kind to someone with no benefit to yourself, what are you going to do? When you decide to be loving and forgiving, even when people wouldn't judge you or complain or say that your revenge or vengeance is totally justifiable, what are you going to do? And that in and of its essence is the decision to take the higher moral ground, which is a challenge, because life in itself is suffering, and you have to pick what you're willing to suffer for. And sometimes you have to pick your willingness to suffer for the goodness, for the sake of doing kind things for other people. And that's how we are still able to function and continue, because there are enough people making enough good decisions that is influencing enough people so that the whole world doesn't just turn on itself. Because as we've seen in these examples throughout history, through wars, through genocides, through racism, through prejudice, through social injustices, we've seen what it's like when a small group of people is either left unchecked, or when how negativity can seep out, how toxic and infectious the evil capacity humankind has can be. But at the same time, we've seen the good. And we have to realize that we're both. We are not one or the other. We're not, well, I would never do that. It's like, you may not see yourself capable of doing that, but you're very capable of being very evil, very self-destructive. And it may not be so horrendously significant as this outburst that would cause rage and anguish, but it could be just the fact that you're not an attentive or caring spouse, or you're not a caring or attentive parent, or you're not a caring or attentive sibling, or you have the opportunity to help those around you who could benefit from barely any to no effort on your end, and you choose not to do that because what's in it for you. And when you think of what's the best for me, you rob yourself of the opportunity to make your life so much more beautiful. Because I think when we focus our lives on service to others, that's when we ourselves have the greatest experiences of our life. Because I don't think anyone's ever got anywhere and been like, oh, look, it's me, I did it, it's all me. It's like someone at some point helped you somewhere along the way. So we might as well take the opportunity to help other people, because we've got to. We've got to help other people. Now we see all the problems. And that makes people uncomfortable. That makes people want to look away, because you also got to be realistic. Are you part of the problem, or are you part of the solution? And what can you actually do? Because you could be very upset about something happening halfway around the world. Okay, well, what can you actually do about that particular issue? Maybe literally nothing. You could maybe donate money. Maybe you can go over there and volunteer. You can talk to people of influence where you're at to help people over there. But what you can do is focus on what are the things around you within your life, so you can set that example, and if you will, create this opportunity within your immediate influence to have it be an area where people have the best opportunity for success. People have the best opportunity to grow. People have the best opportunity to help each other. And it kind of stems from that golden rule of treating other people the way you want to be treated. Because if enough kindness is spread and distributed throughout our society, we will see it reverberate through our communities. And if you're being good, well, then the evil part of you is dying away. It's starving. So everyone individually has to make their own choices to do the right thing. And that's why, and it's hard. And I'm not saying I'm amazing at it, because there's plenty of times when I have the opportunity to do something I should do and I haven't. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities in my future where I should and I won't. But my goal is to not. My goal is to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. No one said it was going to be easy. No one's going to give you an award for it. No one's going to recognize you for it. I think people who film these things, oh, look at me doing this nice thing. Like, that's all good and all, but it shouldn't be, we're going to do good things because we want someone to watch. We're going to do things because someone's going to thank you. It's like, you're going to do good things because that's the right thing to do. And it's hard. It is really hard at times for people to just do the right thing. For people just to treat other people the way they actually want to be treated. Because I want to be treated with respect, which means I need to be respectful and kind to everyone, especially the people that cut me off, the people that yell at me, the people that for whatever reason decide to just... I am the scapegoat for their anger or their wrath for whatever reason, whether I'm in line somewhere or whatever it is. It's to say they're not in that mindset of doing the right thing for the right reason. That does not excuse my decision to stoop down to their level. Every challenge is an opportunity to be the better person.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think even... there's something that you said about like treating it as a goal too. I think it's a very, very healthy way to look at it too. Because I don't think... Because when I think of the golden rule, I see it as the ideal of what human society... Like if we were to operate at the best, highest level...
What we could be.
That would be the standard. Like everyone will be living perfectly by it. But I think it's a goal because obviously we all fallen broken full of mistakes, plenty of space to do wrong, intentionally or accidentally. But I think treating it as a goal is the right thing to do, because I even think one of the reasons why it became even that golden rule, or we started calling it that, it's because it is something that should be prioritized. Otherwise, it will be something that we will never get better at. And that's the thing why you keep saying like it's not easy. It's not only it's not easy, but it's not convenient either.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think until we realize that it's something that we should treat as a goal to pursue versus I have somehow to be this thing, or that's it. I can't, like, you're just gonna drive yourself crazy, because I think it's something where every single day we have an opportunity to get better at and to improve in and to pursue a little more. But it has to be something that slowly becomes higher and higher of a priority. And that's a muscle that you train. It's just like when someone starts deciding that they're going to lose weight and like get in shape, for example. They don't start all of a sudden, go to the gym 7 days a week, eat perfectly healthy all the time, like overnight. It's a slow process, but if they continue to make small steps, not giant strides, but small, tiny baby steps, eventually they'll get there, And to me, I think it's the exact same thing. If every single day we prioritize treating others as ourselves a little over, I don't know, like all the other small things that can be a part of our world, one day it truly will become that primary thing that really drives our mindset. Because I mean, we have to consider it, and I've even thought about this. Like, it's impossible to like pursue this way of living unless this literally becomes one of the most important things in your life. Because otherwise, like, it's too much effort. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just too much effort unless it's that important to you. And I think that's something that a lot of time maybe we don't either think about or don't realize, is that this call to, I mean, just like any other thing that's worth doing, this call to live to the golden rule is a call to live a life that is not easy, that is not always fun, especially when you try to love on people who for some reason don't
appear to be unlovable.
That appear to be unlovable. Like, it's not always fun. It doesn't always feel right. But it's like I don't know, man. I mean, not to blow out of proportion, but I don't know if there's anything high, like better, like a better goal to live for than to strive to make everyone you encounter just a little better after meeting them. Like, just to make of every interaction, every chance that you get to interact with someone, to treat them, talk to them, love on them in such a way that they have to leave that moment feeling like, man, like I was just valued, like I was loved, I was respected. Like, someone looked at me, listened to me, spoke to me like I matter, and they have no choice but to try to replicate that in their lives. Like that, like, just think about if that was like one of your motivations. You wake up in the morning, you're like, I'm gonna do this today, I'm gonna do this today, and I'm gonna treat someone like the way I want to be treated. Like, gosh, right. Like, like how crazy would that be? But I really do believe that it's achievable, because all through our history we have example of people that have done that. We have people in our families, like people that are older, that have lived by that have reinforced that notion into our lives. And so I truly believe that it's something we can keep better at it, but we also need to understanding that it's that hard and that it's that important. We need to give ourselves a little bit of grace as well when we fail, or when we snap at someone, or like whatever. But like we have to take it slowly, because it's a lifelong journey.
Yes,
it's not. You come back home, hey, I treat everybody like myself. Check, I'm done. It's like, no, it's like
right?
It's a lifelong journey,
Yeah.
and eventually, hopefully, as we take it over, as it takes over our life, it bleeds into our children, and then we can hand it to the next generation as we check out. And I think that's the way we should view this. As something really that is. We have the baton in our hands right now. I don't know, as a generation, as a people, as an individual, however you want to look at it. And the goal is to almost like in a race. You run. We don't drop the baton. Like you run with it as long as you run, and then once you're done, you have to pass it on. So, and the only way for us to pass on that love and care for other people to the next generation is for us to actually live it out through our lives and then pass it on. And like we keep saying, like I truly believe that the world can be such a more beautiful place, as this becomes the new norm. So, I mean, I hope you guys felt the passion, because I think we need to stop, because I could talk about this for days, because it's just so close to heart.
And it's like that thing, it's like a muscle.
Yeah,
as they say, anything worth doing is worth doing badly until you get it right.
Yeah.
So treat other people the way you want to be treated, and until next time, stay joyfully golden.